Welcome to our next off the grid video. And in this video, we're gonna learn about my boss in where he's lived and where he's traveled through his life. And I first met Steve Rainbolt in 1995, and I was actually a junior on the track team at Kent State University in Ohio, and he became our new head track coach. Didn't know anything about him, but when I met him that fall, it was the beginning of a relationship that's lasted about 30 years, because when I graduated at Kent State, he hired me onto the staff, and then he hired me for a second time in 2006 at Wichita State University, and he had become the head coach there, a few years later. And so he's one of the most influential people in my life. We always joke that he should be the one with a YouTube channel because the things he says are so interesting and entertaining. So I hope you enjoy this conversation with my boss, Steve Rainbolt.
All right, we're here with Coach Rainbolt. He's my boss for decades now and my old coach. Where did you grow up?
Well, so I grew up in the Kansas City area in Prairie Village, Kansas, which is basically Overland Park. Most people are more familiar with Overland Park, Kansas than Prairie Village. Went to Shawnee Mission East High School, and it was truly, an idyllic place to grow up. It was middle America. It was sort of a dream come true type of a place to grow up, in my opinion. Middle America to me is really, really wonderful, and I feel like I had a wonderful childhood and, junior high and high school. It was really great.
And then you went on to college, not too far from there.
Went to KU out of high school, and that was a dream come true. My two sisters had gone to KU. They were 10 and 11 years older than me, and then also, I'm a high jumper and had good success in the high jump. And long story, but Coach Gary Pepin was there at KU as an assistant coach. He was the jumps coach, and I ended up getting recruited by Coach Pepin, and it was a wonderful time, just an incredible time. KU at that time was an hour away. Now you can probably get there in about 35 minutes, but that's because they've improved the highway system so much. I was driving from Kansas City to Lawrence on little 2-lane country roads to get there, and it was a full hour drive. But being close was good for me. I liked it. It was really good.
And do you remember anything about the town of Lawrence? That was any places you liked to particularly hang out or visit?
I was in a fraternity. I had some good buddies in the fraternity there at KU, and of course the guys on the track team were good friends. I was a pretty straight-laced kid, so if hang out means, some of the night spots, that was not so much the world that I was living in too much. I was, like I say, a pretty straight-laced guy, but I certainly enjoyed the town. Mass Street downtown, Lawrence is always a place to have dinner and take a girl on a date. Lawrence was a great place to go to college. It was just fabulous. So I don't know, I can't remember too much about, I suppose the Vista. We would go and get a Vista burger. And then of course Joe's Bakery, where you'd get a dozen hot Joes, and they would stick it out this window
What's a Joe?
It's a hot glazed donut.
Oh, a donut, okay, yeah.
And you would go to Joe's till 3 or 4 in the morning and get your glazed donuts, man. And it was a tradition. It was a tradition for all the college kids in Lawrence. It was awesome.
Okay, so you graduate, and then now you're in Wichita, but there's been some stops along the way to get to Wichita. Where all have you lived between Lawrence and Wichita?
So right out of college, I stayed around Lawrence and Kansas City for a year, and then moved to Santa Barbara, California. Had a good buddy who had gone out to Santa Barbara. Sam Adams was the sort of world-renowned and highly respected, something of a national decathlon coach at UCSB, and he was out there, and guys would go out there after college and train as a group of post-collegians. And I went out there and joined that group, and man, it was wonderful. It was just awesome. Santa Barbara, California is a garden spot. It's right there on the ocean. It truly is a special place, just because of how quaint the little town is, and yet it's right there on the ocean. And there's a lot of I don't know, movie stars around. It's not like you see movie stars all the time, but people really, really gravitate to Santa Barbara, California.
You're in the 1980 Olympic trials.
Was in the 80
Yeah.
Olympic trials, in the decathlon event, and then went to Santa Barbara, was trying to train and prepare for the 84 trials, and had this injury, and it became pretty darn debilitating. And Coach Pepin, who I mentioned previously, who was the coach at KU, the assistant coach at KU, had taken the head coaching position at Nebraska, and he called me one day and invited me to come and be a coach on the staff at Nebraska. And I said yes instantaneously. I mean, I just said, yes, I will do that. And I mean, it was kind of like in my mind, almost immediately, I'm processing that I'm injured. I want to be a coach. Nebraska's a great place. Coach Pepin is my guy. I'm going to go. And I just literally instantaneously accepted and realized I just made the decision to be done with my own track and field and move on into coaching. Lincoln, Nebraska is a fabulous place. That's a wonderful town to live in. And so I went there and coached there for a couple years, and then had some challenges, some personal challenges. Was married at the time and was going through some struggles in my marriage, and figured that we would do better if I got out of coaching. Coaching is can be a challenging profession for a family, for a marriage.
I've not even attempted it.
And so I got out, and one of my best buddies from college heard that I was having a rough time in my marriage, and he called me, and during the phone conversation said, hey man, if you ever think about getting out of coaching, come to Dallas and I'll help you get into commercial real estate. So, long story short, I took him up on it, went to Dallas, Texas, and for 2 years was in Dallas, Texas, working at commercial real estate. I will tell you that Dallas was wonderful. It was, man, a vibrant community. What a terrific place. But I went there at a time at the end of what might be considered one of the most dynamic real estate markets in the history of the world. And I went there at a time when it literally ended. Boom. The economy went crazy bad right there in about 1984, and it was over. The good times were over. Some people have heard the term see-through buildings. I was there at a time when the term see-through buildings was started, because there were speculative retail and speculative office buildings that had no tenants. You could see through them because there were no tenants in there. And so it was very, very tough to make a real estate transaction. We end up moving back to Kansas City, and then I wanted to, and of course Kansas City was home, like I talked about previously, and I loved being there. But when I got back to Kansas City, I would get invited to help out at track meets as an official, as a referee. I was the referee for the Big 8 Championships multi-events multiple times. And the last time I did, which would have been the year 1989, I just thought, man, I should be coaching. So from 85 to 89, I was trying to get going as a real estate guy and in commercial real estate. And it was just a struggle. And Coach Pepin had a job open up back on the staff at Nebraska, and I took it and went back up to Lincoln, Nebraska. And that time I was there for 6 years, and it was absolutely wonderful. I asked the athletic director at Nebraska what I needed to do if I wanted to be a head coach, because I thought and pretty much knew I wanted to be a head coach. And he said, well, you need to go get head coaching experience. So I heard about the job at Kent State University out in Kent, Ohio, and applied for the job, talked with the athletic director, ended up getting the job, and that's where I met you and Coach Hetzendorf, our throws coach on our staff here. And I went there and took the job and really had a fabulous experience at Kent State. That was a great place, very interesting town. took the job, and every person that I told that I was going to Kent State, in Lincoln, Nebraska, in Kansas City, wherever in this part of the country, would say, "Oh, that's that place where they had that shooting." And
Yeah.
and
First thing I heard of too when I went there.
yeah, and I was like, yeah, and that's what I thought of too, was Kent State and the Vietnam protests and the National Guard coming in and 4 dead in Ohio and all that. Once I got to Ohio, nobody talked about it. It was like, it was so commonplace. It was so, the memorial was over there on the hill, and it was just kind of, everybody knew that the shooting had happened, but it wasn't that big of a deal in terms of like your daily thought process. And it was just a normal place to coach track. And I absolutely loved it. Man, we had some good teams. We had some good athletes. The league was very tough. The Mid-American was a tough league, and I loved living out there. There were, what I told
good
people.
golf courses.
Oh yeah, there was some fabulous golf courses. And what I tell people is that here in this part of the country, growing up in Kansas, if you have, and this is a little different than you, I suppose, but out in this part of the country, if you have a close family member, or if you come from a background where hard work was in your background, then it was probably agricultural. And out there, especially up by Cleveland and Akron, and with Pittsburgh not too far away, if you have close family in your background, or if your background is hard work, it's probably manufacturing. It's probably steel manufacturing, other types, automobile manufacturing. It's probably industrial. Now, I know you grew up on a farm, and certainly there's farmland in the state of Ohio. I'm not suggesting that there's not.
Southern Ohio is a lot different than Northern Ohio.
Yeah, up there where we were, but it felt like this is a little bit different. The traditional Cleveland Browns fan, the traditional Pittsburgh Steelers fan, that was different than a Nebraska Cornhusker fan.
A lot of those Pittsburgh and Cleveland fans are all over the country because of those jobs. They stopped having those jobs and they moved to other places, and they remained Pittsburgh Steelers fans.
Yeah.
You see Steelers fans all across the country.
So, like I say, a Nebraska Cornhusker fan is a bit different than a Pittsburgh Steelers fan.
Yeah.
The amount of profanity might be a bit of a difference. It was, but man, did I enjoy it.
They talk different in the factories than on the farm.
Yeah, maybe. But anyway, I will tell you that it is an unbelievably beautiful part of the country. And I didn't know that. I had no idea. I got there and oh my gosh, it was beautiful.
So then you came back to Wichita in the year 2000. You've been here ever since.
Been here in Wichita since the year 2000. I'm beginning my 25th year here, and I consider myself one of the most fortunate guys that you could possibly imagine, because this has been a fabulous place to work. I've worked for, Jim Schaus and Eric Sexton and Darren Boatwright, and now Kevin Saul, I guess. I'm not forgetting one in there, am I? I think that
I don't think so.
I believe that those are the four
4
athletic directors that I have worked for.
There might have been more presidents than athletic directors.
Oh
actually.
yeah, I think there's probably been about 6 presidents of the university. But the point is, great guys to work for. Jim Schaus hired me, and what a fabulous guy. And Eric Sexton and I don't go a year without playing golf 2 or 3 times to this day. And Darren Boatwright, I count as a good friend, and this guy now, Kevin Saul, is just a fabulous guy, a really, really good guy that I'm really enjoying working with. So this has been simply a wonderful career path opportunity. I've been able
So what's
to,
the difference in living in Wichita and living in Kansas City?
Traffic is the first word that comes to my mind. I don't deal with traffic at the stroke of 5. You got about 8 to 12 minutes of a little bit of a backup on a couple of the interchanges, and that's it. It just doesn't get too much traffic. And I've been disappointed to drive to Kansas City to see family and hit some pretty darn legitimate traffic. So that's one thing that I think of. Kansas City's definitely more of a metropolitan area, and so, but I want to tell you, Wichita has a terrific feel to it, with lots of great restaurants and lots of things to do, and and I don't feel like we take a back seat very much at all to a place like Kansas City with regard to the issue of plenty to do. There's plenty to do here, and so I love it. And of course, I enjoy that there's good golf courses here, and I always am able to enjoy that. So really good place to grow, to raise a family and to live.
So last question, being an upper level athlete and a coach, you've had opportunity to travel some pretty probably interesting places, whether around the world or in the United States. Anything stick out as like really memorable places that you've traveled to?
So I took a big track and field trip and competed all over Eastern Europe when I was a college kid, and we went to Czechoslovakia and Romania and Yugoslavia, and certainly some of those places were really special. Went to the Swiss Alps. We went to some cool places, but I'm a guy who likes to feel something like a local. I enjoy traveling. I'm not trying to say I don't, but what I really enjoy is going to a place and becoming familiar with it. So my wife and I have established sort of an annual trip to Breckenridge, Colorado, and I've become feeling like something of a local there. I know my way around. We go for 3 weeks in the summer. The mountain golf is just stunning. It's just unbelievable. The view of, Mount Baldy, but that's just one view. The views are stunning. And then we have begun, I don't know, for the last 5 or 6 years to go on annual trips to Sedona, Arizona for Thanksgiving and spend Thanksgiving in Sedona, Arizona. And I got to tell you, that's a beautiful spot. And then we've started going at fall break out to Carlsbad, California. And I'm able to do some recruiting because that's the San Diego area, and we've had some good athletes from San Diego. And Carlsbad is right on the ocean. My wife loves the ocean. She loves the sunsets.
I guess one last question, is there anywhere you've never been that you really want to go?
Alaska is the first place that comes to mind. Haven't been, really am not interested in a cruise, but an Alaskan cruise is one that I think I would probably enjoy. I'm a big guy, and a Caribbean cruise or something like that, I'm not too excited about small quarters because I'm a big guy, but somehow an Alaskan cruise sounds cool.
I know a lot of people that have liked those much better than a Caribbean cruise, so that might be your...
Yeah, and I don't like heat. I love cool conditions, and I presume it would be cooler conditions in Alaska.
It's much cooler. It's just there.
Yeah.
Thank you for making it all the way to the end of the video. These are new videos on Tuesday. We're calling them off the grid because they're a little bit off the grid from the normal Thursday and Sunday videos. So on Tuesday, there'll always be something a little bit different, a little bit random. You'll never know. Maybe an interview, maybe some sort of related travel video, but certainly different from Thursday and Sunday. So thank you for watching here on Tuesday. Some new things on the website. We have offered memberships now, and we've had a lot of people sign up to become executive producers, and supporters, different levels, different tiers to support the channel. And with each tier, there are more and more perks. So thank you for those who have become members, and hopefully we'll see more of you in the behind the scenes section of our membership. Also on my website, I have lots of new stuff. I have new merchandise available, some Ghost Town shirts, some Death Go Round shirts. They're very popular right now. The newsletter I send out about every 3 weeks. It's totally free, so sign up for my newsletter. And I have a new section on there of Google Map where I have dropped a pin in every place that I've done a video about. And if you click on that link, you can find the videos about those areas. So that one is new to the website, and hope you guys like that one. Once again, thanks for watching this video, and we'll see you either now on Tuesday, Thursday, or Sunday.